Hello, hi guys, welcome. Hi, welcome. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hey, thank you for joining. I need to ask. Thank you for joining everyone. Give me a thumbs up. Hi Manish.
Hi, Anjali, how are you?
Hey, wonderful. We're so efficient. We didn't have any problems with technology today.
The last time
Okay, guys.
definitely had the issue during the live.
We always have issues, yeah. Um, so everyone, please welcome Monish here with us, and I am super excited. I had a chat with Monish yesterday, and honestly, I was like so excited after our conversation, Monish, that I was talking to a client, and they were just like, "Oh my God, have you had too much coffee this morning? Like, why are you so so high energy?" But it was basically the possibilities of your, coolant technology that got me super excited. So, without spending too much or wasting too much time in chit chat, I just want to, do a brief intro and why we are all here. So we at Grounded, we've been doing a bunch of Instagram lives on Fridays where we're basically talking about sustainability and techniques, design construction techniques that can actually lead us to increase our sustainability footprint. We are kind of trying to stay away from the aesthetics of it, but really deep dive into, technologies, into, methods, materials, and as Munish had mentioned yesterday, we're not just talking about all the good things of using, certain materials and technologies, but we're also discussing the challenges. And so we're talking to practitioners. So I have done a few sessions on things that we do well, which is like, things like rainwater harvesting and things like that. But we're also talking to practitioners who are actually implementing some very innovative techniques, which can further our sustainability footprint. So in the past, we've had a chat with Malvika Mehta, who has started M Lime, where she's actually bagging lime, which can be ready to use on the site, and therefore makes a natural material. And we have lost Monish. Makes the natural material easier to use. Um, and today we are, here with Monish, who runs Studio Ant. Monish is a fellow SPIite, so I'm super buzzed about that. And I didn't know that Malvika was also an SPA graduate, so that's also very cool. We're like a little SPA gang here. And Monish, when did you start your practice? 2015, you said.
14, 15. Yeah.
14, 15, yes. So Munish started his practice in 2014 and 15. And as I said, he graduated from SPA with a bachelor's in architecture and then has studied master's in Spain, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. I should have done my
Yes.
research better. But the coolest thing that, Monish has done, I think, which, all of us know him for, is the cool ant that he came up with. And, the idea of the cool ant is to use evaporative cooling to create, a system where we can have cool air in the interiors of our buildings without the use of electricity. So, without further ado, Monish, I think the very first question that we want to ask you is, what is evaporative cooling?
It's a very simple system. All earthen pots to keep the water cool. So the water evaporates like cool, what do you say, keeping the water inside the cool. So evaporative cooling is like we get cooling effect by basically water its
Monish,
properties.
your voice
Then
is breaking.
uh,
Is it possible?
any better now?
voice was breaking a
Is it
little
any
bit.
better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better,
Is it better?
but it's a little
Okay.
bit better. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm saying that evaporative cooling is nothing but like we get cooling effect by evaporating water. So the water takes the heat and because of the latent heat, it takes the heat to evaporate so taking up the heat and giving us a cool air or cool water depends where we are using, whether we are
Got
using it for cooling water in a matka or cooling it for cooling air. So that's like, for example, all the desert coolers work with the concept of evaporative cooling.
So traditionally, I guess, for everyone, evaporative cooling, the easiest and the most obvious place to see it is in a matka, like Manish said. And other than the cooler, were there other ways in the past, historically, Monish, where evaporative cooling was used in like our old historic buildings?
Like if you, there are lots of buildings, for example, in Iran specifically, there are these musketees. Basically, musketees are these windows wherein mashrabiyas, they're also called as mashrabiyas, wherein in a window which is more like a jaroka sort of a thing, a configuration. So it has the balcony jetting out of a building, and it has this wooden lattice all around. So the air that's coming in, it's through the wooden lattice. It allows the air to come in through the jali system. And then inside they used to have these earthen pots filled with water. So,
Oh,
and so they used to be, these are beautiful spaces in, especially in the Middle East and Iran and all these places wherein they used to also act like, so people used to sit there, look at the street down, like, also for social interaction. And the water they used to also use for drinking purpose because that's like a gadi that we use for drinking. And at the same time, it also used to cool the air that's coming in. It's a beautiful detail, like mashrabiyas in Egypt and Iran.
how
So,
wonderful.
and it's used,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember my mom used to tell me that in when she was a child, like they used to have these chicks which they would hang outside their windows, and they would actually wet the chick with it used to be made out of the same material that they make the cooler the pallas for the coolers, right? What is that? It's
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
a
I was about to
uh,
come to that.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it is, I mean, even the detail of this, if you look at how that started, it's pretty amazing because the wooden nets, I mean, the chick mesh that we use for cooling, it started in Egypt. They used to have
Hmm.
these roots from the river. They used to take them out like called reeds, and they used to stack them like this thing. And again, the same thing with the roots, they have started it, and which later turned into Venetian blinds. So even the roots for Venetian blinds also comes from these the chicks. I mean, the evaporative cooling systems, wherein without using water, those they then again converted into blinds.
And wasn't
So
it like
even there, yes.
khas roots? I think it was like khas, right? Which is also has a
Yes, yes,
beautiful
yes.
khas is vetiver. So I think it was vetiver roots that were used, and then it used to have a beautiful fragrance. So they used to wet it, and then the breeze would blow through them, and along with cooling, it would also actually provide room freshening, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's all. That's absolutely true. So all the systems that were there, these are all traditional systems that have existed for like centuries. All of this, and they work pretty well. And especially, and of course, I mean, depends on the humidity and the area that we use. But they're very effective systems even now.
Absolutely. So now
So
let's go into your coolant, right? So you told me this beautiful story yesterday where guys, Monish started with doing an art installation, but ended up creating coolant, a very innovative, cooling solution, where he's taking this traditional technology of evaporative cooling, but he's actually updated it for today's times. So Monish, tell us about coolant.
So, like, I mean, I was telling you yesterday that so it was a factory that we first started this like 5 years ago, and so when we first started, it was an idea was to create a kind of an art installation that screens the hot air that was coming from the DG set, the machine, and so the heat over there is like completely. I mean, peak summers. I have actually experienced it. I stood in front of it, and I know what the plight of these workers in the factory was. So the problem was that the air was coming at a huge velocity. I mean, 10 meters per second was the velocity. Like, to explain what it means, that if you stand in front of it, the air can actually push you. As simple as that. So the
Oh,
people used
wow.
to escape the heat wave, people used to run from one building to another, because this DG set was in front of, in between two buildings, with a gap of nearly 20-25 feet or something. So people used to escape that. I saw people running from one to another, wherein there was a constant activity in front of that. So
Yeah.
the factory, I mean, they wanted to do something to cut off the heat somehow and try something over there. So they approached us actually to do some kind of an art installation or something that screens this. So when we did our research, and one of the conditions that were given to us is that so they have tried this CUS and other evaporative cooling pads that. So the thing is that these are functioning, they're pretty good, but the life is not so much. CUS and also you have to probably replace them every now and then. And like I said, the wave, the heat is so much that they wouldn't last long. You need to probably reinforce it properly and either replace them. They might not withstand the heat that is coming from the machine. So then when we're discussing, okay, these are the things that fail, and they said, so why don't you try something else? But that's actually like an art installation that can screen. So they never, thought of actually like an evaporative cooling system or anything in front. So when we were doing a research, I came across this beautiful Egyptian illustration, in which there was a pharaoh sitting, and that the slaves fanning the surface of pots stacked one on top of another, earthen pots filled with water, and that was really beautiful. So I thought that, okay, what if we reinvent that and earthen pots, something like that. But then again, we decided, okay, so that could work. So first we tried a brick jali, like a lattice crisscross brick jali, but not a simpler one. It's a three-dimensional, like a huge lattice sort of thing, and poured water on top of that. And to our surprise, it worked, and that gave us a lot of confidence, thinking, oh, so we made a prototype with kacha, cement, and bricks. Then we realized, okay, we can actually make it more beautiful. We can make it like an art installation. So using the same principles, instead of bricks, the geometry also can be way more refined. So we thought, okay, now why don't we work with a
Monish, we lost you. Hello. So, okay, I'll fill in a little bit of the story, guys, while we wait for Monish to come back. The interesting thing here is that the client actually had brought, Monish in a way to actually do an art installation to block the view of the DG set, and also to block the heat. So the idea here was really, to kind of block it. But what Monish ended up doing with this innovation was that he actually enhanced it. Sorry, go ahead, Monish, carry on.
Yes, someone was calling, and then I lost the connection.
Oh no, they don't know you're on an Insta live. Okay, so you were saying that you wanted to make it more aesthetically beautiful.
Yes, more aesthetic, and also with the bricks and all, what happens is there is still a little bit of obstruction to the air that's passing. So we wanted it to be as aerodynamic as possible, so that there is no obstruction of air that can actually go in. So we said, okay, now let us try with these earthen pots, so that the air, it's actually channelized inside through and through, without really, without actually, there is no backlash into the this thing. So one of the things with this setup is that the air cannot go back. It impacts the efficiency of the machine if the air bounces back to the system. That's why we cannot build a wall or anything over there. So then we said, okay, why not actually try it with this cones, so we can take the draft through and through without obstructing it. Then we came up with the cones, and then we experimented with that. It was working. Then we did some CFD to see what should be the length of the cone. So we tried to optimize it. So I got a friend of mine, school friend, who was a scientist. I said, tell me what should be the length of it. So he kind of did the math and the analysis for that CFD to see, to tell us what should be the depth of the pot. And
so should this depth now be, so are you saying, Monish, are you saying that for each installation of the system, we have to kind of almost engineer the cone depending on the, the use and the physical condition in each case.
Actually, ideally, yes, but we are trying to optimize it, and we are also testing different conditions with different forms, not just cones, but also different geometries, like scales and all that. So we can optimize it. Definitely, we don't have to. But in the factory, the conditions were extreme. We were talking about 54, 55 degrees in peak summers. It's huge, the temperature. So the thing is, sometimes the system can be under-designed or over-designed. It's possible that the system is not designed enough for the effect to come out properly. So ideally, for extreme cases like this, we can engineer it. So, but for regular households and other stuff, like where we are, because now we are working with different, we are trying to see how this can be like an optimized system can work in different places.
Standardized.
So doing a lot of research and R&D. Yes, standardized.
Right.
So the depth and
okay. So the basic concept here is for coolant or for the newer innovations is that basically you're creating a web. I'm just going to translate it into basic simple words, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. But basically, we're saying you're creating a web where you're putting these terracotta cones, and air can pass through these cones. And then what you do is you actually wet them. So then, the terracotta absorbs the water, right? So it becomes wet. And then as the air goes through it, and as the air is drying up the cones, because you said that, the latent heat from the air is actually then used to dry up the cones, and therefore the air that passes through, and on the other side, it will be cooler, right? So that is the basic concept.
Absolutely, basic.
Okay.
Yes.
Now tell us about you also told me yesterday, which, so the coolant was actually circular, right? If I'm not mistaken. It was like a sphere in shape.
We made it because we wanted it to look like a beehive in the first installation. So we made it like a beehive. There was a bulge and all of that. It was more aesthetic, this thing. It need not be a circle. It can be V-shape. It can be this thing. Yeah. So
now you
I'll
also
explain in a very simple manner.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please carry on. I mean, I just meant to say that it's like any other jali and with evaporative cooling. So if you look at all the jalis that are there, for example, if you see even in all the havelis with the stone jalis, intricate details and all that, even this thing, the way those lattices are created, they're done in stone. So over there also, like you are able to experience the cooling effect inside because of hot air the traveling from wider aperture to narrower aperture and coming in. But in this case, what we are trying to do is within the same system, similar jalis, we are working with evaporative cooling. So it's as simple as that. Like, so you can work with yes, even different mediums and different geometries. Yeah.
Yesterday I was actually, after you and I chatted, I was talking to a client and I was telling them about your system, and I was actually telling them about us potentially, trying it in their house. And they actually said that they have seen someone in Goa where this person has like a pipe above his roof, because in Goa traditionally all the roofs are made with terracotta tiles, right? So this, this person has actually done this like DIY innovation where he has a pipe above the roof with holes, and what he does is he lets water run on his roof, and then his roof, which is terracotta tiles, becomes wet, and therefore his building becomes cooler.
Wow, that's
Monish, your voice is breaking again. We couldn't hear you.
Is it? Maybe I think I'm stopping the mic. Yeah, am I clear now? Is it any better?
No, it's the internet actually. Yeah, it's better now. Yes. So sorry, you were saying.
No, I'm saying that's really cool because so most of the heat gain in the buildings happens from roofs and elevations. So like and depending on the size of the building, sometimes proportionally the roof actually might be taking in more heat than actually the building elevation. So in that cases, like doing something like this on the roofs also make it like absolutely what do you say, workable, this kind of a solution.
Yes. So it was very cool that cool. I heard that.
Yeah, it's really
So
nice.
now you
Also,
tell us about, you are further innovating this coolant, like you were telling me yesterday, and like you just mentioned, to make it more like a Jali system, which can be a standardized Jali system that can be installed in multiple, situations. So tell us about that. Like, what is that now next evolution of this coolant that you're working on?
so when we first started with this, like we were focusing only on outdoor cooling systems and public because of the design and everything, and also some of the practical concerns like splash of water and all that. I was telling you the other day that how this can we had this problem in some place uh, the indoors. So then what we did, we actually started looking at these vertical slats and other geometries which are there that can be plugged onto a building skin, like a second skin. So then ever since then, we started doing
Yeah.
a lot of research on how double skins and envelope cooling can bring down the energy demand inside the building. So there are two ways of looking at this. One, as an isolated system where the system can work on its own, like a passive design, no air conditioners involved. So where you can actually bring down the temperatures directly with the help of a screen, like a second skin, that is helping in cooling and also, like I said, evaporative cooling and also natural ventilation. So there is a drop. I mean, by doing this of 3 to 4 degrees, depending on the location. We have tested it for Raipur. We have done some simulations and checked how much drop the temperatures can be. So you can see a temperature difference of 3 to 4 degrees by doing this on the building elevation itself as a second skin.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also work as not as a replacement, but also as a supplement. Let's say some people already have air conditioners installed and they would like to install something like this to bring down the air conditioning load. So by in doing this evaporative
Load.
cooling
Yeah.
and envelope cooling on building facades, so there's a possibility to reduce the air conditioning consumption by 30%. Up to the energy loads can go down that much. So with the
Amazing.
help with if you're using it as an evaporative cooling system, so that is something that we have seen,
So,
and even without
tell me, this
water.
is, sorry, yeah, go ahead. That was my question. With water, without water.
Yes, so I'm
Monish,
saying that is
you and
with
I are
water.
talking about
Even
the same
without
thing.
water, so I'm saying without water there is a variation of 5 to 6%. So instead of 30% reduction in the what do you say in the cooling load, the cooling load will be somewhere around 23 to 24% is the impact that you can get, like by properly designing the second skin on the building screen. So basically you're cutting the heat right at the source. You're not letting the heat come inside the building, and by effective means you can achieve this also without water.
So
Yeah.
how would this compare? So when we're looking at it as a system of a second skin, for example, in this we're doing a project in Chennai, and we are actually proposing a second skin for the south and west facing walls, because Chennai, from these days with climate change and everything, has just become way too hot. In
Yes.
fact, like there is a friend of mine who messaged me earlier this summer, and she said that, Anjali, even with air conditioning, we are sweating, inside their rooms. So we are right now proposing a second skin with plants, right? So how does the coolant compare against the cooling that you would get by doing a basic like steel mesh, second skin with plants growing over it?
So the overall design, the way that we do it, if you're doing a steel mesh or something, if you look at the sun angle or something, at some point of the day, the heat will still go inside because it's a thin, the depth and everything is like different, right? So the kind of systems that we are doing, we are also measuring the sun angle. So how with the sun angle, these things that the design that we're doing, it can cut off the heat to the maximum extent throughout the day. So we are optimizing the angle of the slat. So it's not a flat thing, rather. So it also has, so that that way we are able to get like probably the system is a slightly bit more efficient than the regular ones which are doing just horizontal or like which are very flatter, where there is no depth involved in the within the system. So that's number one, how we can optimize. Now the second thing is also that terracotta by default, I mean as a material, the heat, the absorption values. So compared to metal or some other
Yes.
material, also. So
And also
by default, the U
reflectivity,
value of
actually, Manish.
reflectivity is definitely, and these also like create a lot of impact on the performance of the product, definitely on the system, and I mean, that's about the performance. But also, if you look at the carbon footprint and everything, or any other natural material, like some questions on what are the other materials that work. So, for example, if you take steel or any other synthetic material, the embodied energy, the amount of the carbon footprint for those materials is like tremendously high. But when you're talking about terracotta, or even for that matter, slate, or in Goa and all, like you have laterite brick. So, like materials like that, but I'm sure that's too bulky, so you might not be getting like like that. But slate is a very good alternative as well, like natural materials. For that matter, you can also take sandstone. Sandstone is porous in nature, creates slats of sandstone, like really thin. It absorbs water, and you can also use it for like this. It might be a little bit more expensive, but it can also be done because by default, because sandstone also is water. It's porous. It absorbs water. So you can also use that.
Right. No, that's a very interesting point. Absolutely. So basically, if you are ever choosing to say do a stone cladding for a building, right? Then if you actually choose a stone that's more porous versus a more, like a granite or something, then you can actually, it can help in increasing thermal comfort in a building.
Depends on, like I said, the application against cladding to this thing. Instead of cladding, you're talking about more of a perforated second skin jali, wherein you're letting the air pass through it, like a similar configuration. But in that case, definitely it can help.
Right. But tell me, when you're doing the second skin with your terracotta pipes, what is the frame? Isn't your frame going to still be steel?
Yes, but very minimal. I mean, so we are doing that. So we are now in the details and all. So, like if you're doing stone, you can also interlock them. You can use it like a masonry thing. But you'll be needing some kind of metal framework and support for sure. But based on the design and all, you can optimize it. Like, you can, the quantity can definitely be optimized. But steel definitely will be needed, yes. Any other structural support.
Right. So I think, Monish, if you can, at least I would be very interested in learning like the difference in the metrics of the temperature difference indoors when we use plants as a second skin versus using terracotta pipes, right? I don't know how to do that math myself, sorry. But since you seem to be much more into engineering and numbers, I don't know if we can figure that out somehow, because I think that would be a really interesting sort of comparison, and also that would give Coolant an edge, right? When someone is choosing to use plants versus your terracotta pipes for second skin.
Absolutely. Even we are trying to integrate plants in between the skins, so they also protect the plants also, like between the terracotta skin and the inner skin. So inner, what we're doing is we are asking people to open up. So you can use a lot of glass or windows and all, so that they can open, the natural ventilation can flow in. And in between these two layers, we are proposing plants, and so that this also acts like a layer both for improving the air quality, enhancing the air quality inside. At the same time, the plants, I mean, if you leave it to the dark sun, it dies. I mean, you have to also maintain. So it depends on the height of the plants which you're using, how the sun is coming. Let's say you only have plants up to 4 feet level. On the top, there are no plants. Then it's a problem. So like all of those things are there, but yes, I mean, plants can be very beautifully integrated into this, like into the design.
No, but I actually think that an advantage of using coolant versus using plants can be that plants require a lot of maintenance, right? Versus if you use coolant, then that will require almost minimal or no maintenance, right? And both of them, so even if you're doing plants on the facade, for example, you would use some kind of drip irrigation or something, right? So instead of doing it for plants, you use the same drip system for the, for your facade to achieve that evaporative cooling benefits.
Absolutely. That's what we are trying to do. I mean, something we started, but COVID put a lot of brakes on our research and physical experimentation. But so we are doing a lot of running simulations and optimization and all of that in the design. So the water can, we were talking about earlier, how it works in humid climates and rainy seasons and all that, right? So with automating the drip irrigation system, the way the water is flowing, you can also control the humidity values in monsoons. So you don't have to constantly pour water. In summers, the water consumption can be higher, and in monsoons and winters you don't need drip irrigation to come in. And in the monsoons, the water level can be like really low. So that way you can control the humidity factor in the system. And one more thing, I have personally noticed in working with the material is by default terracotta is hydrophilic, porous one, which means that it retains moisture during monsoons in itself. So that also helps in giving a cool breeze. So you don't have to constantly pour water and think about how the humidity in the room increases that way.
Right.
So I also saw a question about it causes dampness in the house. So that's the reason why we are proposing a double skin. So this system is detached from the building. Yes. So the whatever it's actually like segregated. So there is no way the dampness or anything can come in unless there is something terribly wrong with the way the wall, the general wall is built.
Is done.
So
yeah.
So the dampness that's also another benefit. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And sorry, I'm just also going to say that last, 2 weeks back, I think we had a session on rainwater harvesting. So this could also be a really good way to actually use your collected rainwater. So in your monsoon months, even if you can fill like one, big tank of Syntex tank with monsoon water and then use that water to kind of wet your, your coolant skin. Right, so in a way you are reusing rainwater. You don't have any new water consumption really, and it's kind of like a circular system that you've created. So that I think that could work very well. So Monish, you've talked about a lot of things. We would love to see more information. I personally, that I would love to see more information. So, please do share with us where we can find more information about this skin system, because I do feel that, it is something that we should consider, like coming from a very hot country as we do. And, putting more and more air conditioning just cannot be the solution that we rely on. And also because, air conditioners also produce just so much heat and it increases the urban island heat effect. There are just so many issues with increasing air conditioning for our thermal comfort that, we must be looking at alternative ways of, achieving that. And as you said, there is no reason for us to go either like completely alternative sustainable or go completely like, modern tech. I think we can have both. So what I would really, love to do in our buildings, for example, for our clients, and I think it would be a very exciting idea if we can do both. So have air conditioning for those really, really hot days and muggy days, where you need it. But then this system, even in that case, reduces the, need for air conditioning, the load of air conditioning, and therefore the energy use, right? And then there will be days which are not so hot when this system alone can provide thermal comfort and therefore negates the use for air conditioning. Okay, one more question. Have you guys ever considered using this on the roof? Because like you said, right, like roof is where we have the maximum heat gain in a building. And traditionally they would use these inverted cooler for, on the roofs for, insulation as well as waterproofing. So have you guys considered that?
We have one project in the pipeline, but more of a shading device, not evaporative cooling on the roof, to cut off the heat that is from the sun, but not like having terracotta and water, not in an exact form, but slightly different. Basically, it's like having a pergola sort of a thing. So I think now we are proposing almost in all the projects that we are doing this kind of a system so that could cut off the roof, the heat gain in the roof, not just in one. All the recent work that we are doing, we are proposing we have this on the top, at least a 30 to 40% minimum, like a cover on the roof that can cut down the heat. So, but not with.
So what is the material of that?
So,
right.
So there we are not exactly proposing terracotta because it's like it can be an overkill. So anything, depends on the project and the style, the architecture of that. Sometimes it is, so we also have done in like an old project that we have done, but recently got over. So we have also used the skin in metal, but that was one of the very early works 3-4 years back we started off. But there is like a second skin and it also has an impact inside. But there is still like a heat gain because the material releases heat inside it. So metal gets heated up and all, but there is this shading effect that's on that. But when you talk about the roof, we are proposing it in cane or even different materials like stone slats, different projects and different materials that we are using for this thing. And also, we are also like one project where we are proposing terracotta, hollow terracotta tubes, but on the terrace as a like a shading device. This thing, so it's mixed. Depends on the project and what goes well with that particular the project. Sometimes it's also like
you've
metal
not really, but you've not really considered evaporative cooling on the roof as of yet.
Not yet, because it is detached. It is coming at a height. It is not exactly on the roof, on the floor. It is coming at the top of the Mamti level. So there we are doing it in like a shading device, not exactly as a water this thing. There on the roof.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Monish, we've already chatted for 37 minutes, so I'm going to actually move to the second section of my of the questions that I had for you. So we've discussed Coolant in detail, and we have a few more questions, so maybe we can take them up later. But one of the other things that I want to actually highlight right now, and because a lot of our audience is young architects and students. So I actually want to talk about the fact that you as an architect, instead of maybe focusing on building buildings initially, or instead of focusing on getting paying clients, you actually came up with this innovative technique, right? And then you found a way to, which I think speaks volumes on the way your brain works, right? Because doing innovation like this, where you're connecting dots, different dots together to make a product is, I think, very creative and innovative and special. I don't think all of us can do it. But then you actually went ahead and figured a way to show your work, right? So you created this something beautiful, but then you figured a way to show your work and to, use it. That to a certain extent. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, now we can. There was this minor glitch, but we can hear now.
Okay, because I feel that to a certain extent, architects feel that talking about their work or fitting their work is is kind of like a cheap tactic or something, right? It's not cool. So tell us the story about how you actually went about how did you pitch Coolant to the various publications, and what happened, and how do you go about it?
Yes, I think probably I should tell you how it started. So, so like I told you, like yesterday, that right after finishing this, I had to go for my PG diploma, and literally I finished this 2 days before the taking the flight for going out. So I finished it. Then I was only chatting on the phone with the client and all, how it is working. I never saw it working. So I came back, and then after 1 year, and I realized that the system is still working. But I also visited it after 2 or 3 months after coming back. I did not go back immediately. I was on my probably relaxing mode sort of a thing. But then what happened is that when I came back, it was very difficult because I was practicing before. I didn't want to go back to work for this thing. Any firm wanted to continue the same practice that I was doing earlier. So literally I had no work and zero work. So that's when it struck me that unless if I showcase my work and talk to people, show it somewhere, I'm never going to get work. And before going, I had like a few projects in hand, 2 or 3 or something. I finished all of them, went there. Then you're starting your slate scratch, right? Like empty when you come back. So then that's when I started like reaching out to people, like, asking them to publish it. I was chasing them for like literally 2 or 3 months, and trying to sending this installation to people in the hope that maybe I'll get a few more, like 3-4 other factories where I can actually put up this installation because it's working. I can try to do this and all. So finally, after after 3 months, we got a call from Arc Daily that they're interested in doing it, like after this thing. So, and it really helped because the point of actually talking about the work is, I don't see if there is any negative connotation in it, because that's, I think, just in the head, because there are 2 things that can happen. One, you publish it and nobody sees it and nothing happens. That's the worst case scenario. The second thing is sometimes the right kind of people see it, and people who think that's the kind of work that they want, they can always reach out to you. So I think that's the second thing. If the weight of, I mean, if you wait, the second possibility, the odds are like really high that because you do a certain kind of work and you want to connect with the right kind of people, there is no other way. Whether you have to put it in your website, which barely like any people see it, and the other thing is that you put it on Instagram these days because it's quite a very powerful medium, social media, or you get it like if it is really good, some people will reach out to publish it, like in media houses, whether it is in print or digital platforms and so on. So, can you hear me?
Now, yes.
Am I
In
audible?
between, there was a bit. Yes.
Yes. So I'm saying that it's quite so publishing and talking about work is a very powerful thing because, like I said, the chances that you'll reach out to the right audience and people will come back to you. And personally, it helped us a lot because we do a particular kind of work. We don't do commercial work, and we don't do that. So this kind of a medium helped us connect with a lot of like-minded people, both uh, fellow professionals and also potential clients. So yes.
Right. So how would you say like you divide your time? How much percentage goes into doing like research for Coolant versus working on like client projects, which are paying projects?
It's almost 50-50 now. In fact, sometimes Coolant takes over more than architecture. So that's because there is a lot of research involved in it, like a lot of research. It takes a lot of time. We are
And
working.
you do all of it yourself, or
We have a team. We have a team of 4 to 5 now. So working especially on Coolant and another 4 to 5 working on architecture. So total we are a team of 12. Right now it fluctuates, but more or less that's the number. And half the team actually works on Coolant and half the team works on the architecture projects because there's a lot of R&D involved in it. We are trying to optimize the system, standardize manufacturing, how it can be applied in places, troubleshooting it. Like there are times in which there are some what do you say manufacturing issues or problems that are associated with implementation and so on when you're doing it in large scale, right? So we are trying to, and also like a lot of R&D goes in coming up with the metrics. You know, a lot of questions people ask us: how efficient is it? What are the numbers? And what's the performance and so on. So we have been for the last 2-3 years working on just that. How do you measure the performance of a product? How can you see? And because that's not because with natural systems and passive designs, it's a very difficult to define the metrics. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. More than half
And
the time goes into it.
what is the percentage of your studios that come to Coolant, your other architectural projects?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? The voice was breaking.
In terms of effort, it's 50-50. But what about the revenue? What percentage of your studio's revenue comes from Coolant?
No, barely anything. Like we invest a lot in research. Like it's not even it's negatives.
And part here is that then at some point, what if you get like really jaded and you're like, why am I doing this? I mean, I feel a lot of really good ideas kind of don't progress and grow because they at some point you will start to think about economic viability, or you will just kind of maybe get tired of trying to convince clients. So does that bother you? Does that worry you? That worries me because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen it. I mean, not just worries me. I have seen this thing quite a few times in the last few years. So practically saying, and I mean, it needs a lot of persistence and this thing. So sometimes it happened that you don't have the funds or the resources to carry on the research. So there are like few months where you have to pause it, but then again you get back on track. You make some positive from some of the architecture work you're doing, and then you keep it moving and try to get some grants and this thing and so on. So, but yeah, it's always it's not easy. I mean, it's a lot of investment, both time, money, and effort. So,
Yeah,
but I hope.
your passion, but the point is a lot of good, I guess, the field of architecture. You know, in the creative field, maybe not just architecture, right? But in the creative fields, a lot of new innovations maybe, kind of stop progressing after, because, the creative professional just can't carry that load anymore, sort of a thing. So, but I hope that doesn't land, because looks like you guys are coming, ways can be more easily integrated into buildings. And I hope that a session like today's actually helps in people knowing more about it, and also understanding that it's not foreign or it's very complicated. It's actually a very simple system. So, in a way, it can be defined advantage,
Yes.
of evaporative cooling, which in the long run is free of cost, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. So the only thing that keeps us moving is that whenever we see that, like there is some kind of a positivity. For example, the latest, the boost for me personally, and also for the team, was that we got whole lot of simulations done for this, like on the evaporative cooling on the building skins. Because when we are looking at an isolated installation, like a small piece or a window, or within a room, you cannot measure the performance, and we struggled with it for like 3 years. So because we keep doing, and people compare it with a cooler, and between a cooler and this, and it's a this thing, and then we are like, okay, but when you cooler, this is way more expensive than a cooler, and and we keep facing this lot of questions, and then we said, okay, probably we are not looking in the right direction. So then we said, okay, why not, we always keep talking about Havelis and buildings in the past, like that, all this Mashrabiyas and whatever, like those things are there. So why not actually look at it from a envelope cooling perspective and all? I think that's when again there was a fresh blood of ideas, and then we started like measuring this thing. And when we actually saw this thing, it was a lot of motivation. So it was like, okay, so probably we are onto something. Okay, let's get on back on track and put some more resources into it and see it. And luckily, when people see it and appreciate, and also that also adds a lot of motivation, because a lot of people are constantly pushing you to do the right thing, and then they are supporting that. Okay, because it's not a perfect system yet. It's not. There are lots of like little troubles here and there, but people understand it. They see it and they realize that, okay, it's a work in progress. We are like doing it. We will overcome those with constant trying to figure out and so on, like that. So that also helps. But yeah, a lot of support also comes from this thing. People like encouraging us to do this thing. For example, like this, talking to you and discussing that. That's also adds a lot of motivation. So definitely it helps.
I think, first of all, show us a photos and videos of what, all your systems and installations, because I think the more you show, right, like people will get comfortable with the idea. I just want to maybe take like one questions about hard water. There are questions about water stains on terracotta. You got to live with it because natural material. We've talked about it earlier in other natural materials when we discussed. I want to actually take one question here, like what is the additional cost of this? Honestly, that's something that I'm sure you also get this question. Like that's probably the first question that any client will ask you. What is the additional cost? Say if you're doing the second skin, right, with coolant. So what is the additional cost of that?
It will be somewhere between, depending on the location, 750 to 1,000 rupees, you can say, because if you're building the whole thing with the structure members and all that, then an additional cost, 1,000 rupees per square feet, 700 to 1,000 ke beech mein. You can optimize it, but that is right now, because a lot of stuff that we're doing is handmade and with this thing like remotely. But we also assure that once we do it in large scale, probably streamlining the manufacturing with this of these units that we are producing, the cost can come down. But at the moment, it is somewhere between that, like 750, 800 to 1,000 ke beech mein.
Can a terracotta jali replace your system of pipes? Because that will have the framing. So for the coolant, you require the frame and then the pipes. But what if we just use the terracotta jali and wet it? Like, would we get the same benefit?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, in our case, the difference is we are trying to optimize it according to the sun angle and the solar thing, that particular way, how the system can work with the airflow. like the aperture sizes and all of that, and also the depth, those particular factors in creating a measurable impact. And if you do even a terracotta jali for that matter, it also cuts off the heat. There is no denying thing about it. Just that when it comes to the metrics, it might be a bit more, slightly bit more inefficient, maybe, or maybe our system is a bit more efficient because we are looking it in that particular direction, how the performance and all of that. So the performance might vary, but they work the same way. They similarly this thing. But one more thing is in a terracotta jali, there are two kinds. One is porous and non-porous, depending on the glazing that you're doing. That also has a slight impact on the performance of it. So while the pros of using a glazed thing is the life is longer, all the stains that we're talking about and all of that, they won't be there. I'm reading some of the questions about the stains and all. So when you're using this kind of the glazed material, so you obviously don't have the stains and it lasts like longer, but the porosity is less. So the performance might be a little lesser. And when you're using a porous material, obviously
Stains are beautiful.
there'll be some kind of, sorry?
No, I'm just saying, but the stains are beautiful, right? Like, I think that sort of, worn out patina when it's not perfect is actually beautiful and it should be valued. Like, I think that, our goal should be to have this, this kind of architecture. And especially if you're using natural materials, I think it's impossible to achieve, architectural surfaces that are completely perfect. I think that even if you're getting stains, it's something that actually adds to and the texture and the look of the building. So okay, Monish. So we're running out. If you have anything to add, please go ahead. Guys, I would ask everyone to please send your questions directly to Monish. You can find also Cool Ant an Instagram handle, so you guys can find him there. As you can see, he's approachable, and he does his passion, so he knows this subject in a lot of detail in terms of even engineering details. So please reach out to him directly, ask him your question, and that will also be great in motivating him to keep doing this. Because we need that. We need that for to kind of beat climate change and to give sustainability a big push. So Monish, thank you from my end. Please, any last words?
No, I mean, I think we should be having a updated website of Coolant in a 3 to 4 weeks time with all the details on envelope cooling and everything updated on that. So you'll find a lot of information on that there. And yes, definitely any questions I would love to take. I mean, please drop us a message and we'll definitely answer back anything that you guys might have. So, and thank you so much for having me here. It was a nice discussion. So
thank you. And we had a good audience, so I hope this was helpful. Thank you everyone for joining. We're do another session in 2 weeks with someone I absolutely love. So Monish, I don't know if I'm of interest to you, but we'll be talking to Pallavi Latkar, who runs a group out of Bombay and is really into psychology and conservation and native trees, and it was actually a consultant for one of our projects.
Wow!
So we'll be talking
amazing
site planning with her.
I'll join that call for sure.
Yeah. And so if you guys have any other interesting people who are doing work but are not like just but are actually putting their ideas into practice, I would love to talk to them. So thank you everyone. Thanks Monish. I hope we connect soon. Look to collaborating soon as well.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to speaking to you again soon.
Okay,
bye everyone. Bye.
Bye guys.